The night was still, and the only sound was the soft rustle of leaves as a gentle wind swept through the forest. Mia Harris, a determined and sharp-witted young woman in her late 20s, stood at the entrance of an old, abandoned laboratory deep in the woods. She had long brown hair tied back in a messy ponytail, striking green eyes and a slender but athletic build. Dressed in a black leather jacket and jeans, she looked ready for anything, though her heart raced with unease. Beside her was Ryan Blake, a tall, muscular man with short-cropped dark hair and a grizzled beard. He had a rugged look, his face hardened by years of chasing mysteries that others deemed unsolvable. His intense blue eyes scanned the surroundings as he clutched a flashlight tightly, the beam cutting through the darkness. "Are you sure this is the place?" Ryan asked, his deep voice barely above a whisper. Mia nodded, swallowing her fear. "This is where the report stopped. If there's anything left of the experiment, it's in there." The experiment. The words alone sent a chill down Mia's spine. Years ago, a brilliant but unhinged scientist named Dr. Elias Carter had been working on a project that was said to bend the very fabric of reality. The townspeople of Ridgewater had whispered of strange lights and unexplained disappearances, all linked to the lab. One night, the experiment went terribly wrong, and Dr. Carter vanished, along with the entire research team. The laboratory had been abandoned ever since, sealed off from the world. But Mia and Ryan were investigators of the strange and unknown, and they had spent months following the trail of clues that led them to this place. They stepped inside the crumbling building. Dust coated every surface, and the air smelled musty, as though the place had been forgotten by time. Faint, flickering lights from broken monitors illuminated the far corners of the room. Papers were scattered everywhere, and strange, half-finished calculations covered the walls. As they moved deeper into the lab, Mia stopped abruptly. "Look," she said, pointing ahead. In the center of the room was a large, circular platform surrounded by complex machinery. At its core, a shimmering veil of light pulsed softly, as if it was alive. It was like nothing they had ever seen. An almost translucent wall of energy that seemed to shift and twist, warping the air around it. Ryan moved closer, mesmerized. "Is that the edge of..." under his breath? Before Mia could respond, a voice echoed from the shadows. "You shouldn't have come here." Both of them spun around, their hearts pounding. From the darkness stepped a figure, an older man with disheveled white hair and tired, sunken eyes. His face was gaunt, and his clothes were torn as though he had been wandering for years. It was Dr. Elias Carter. "You have no idea what you're tampering with," Carter said, his voice hoarse. "I tried to control it, but reality, it isn't something you can manipulate without consequences." Mia and Ryan exchanged a glance, but neither moved. "What happened here?" Mia asked. Carter's eyes darkened, filled with regret. "I opened a doorway," he whispered. "A doorway to places beyond our understanding. At first it was small, barely noticeable. But it grew. It consumed everything. My team, my life. It warped time, space, and reality itself. I was trapped in its twisted version of the world for years. But you..." He paused, looking at them with fear. "You don't have much time." Suddenly, the pulsing light grew stronger. The air around them began to ripple, and the room seemed to shift, bending unnaturally. Mia could feel the ground tremble beneath her feet, and Ryan's flashlight flickered, casting eerie shadows on the walls. "We have to go," Ryan urged, backing away. But Mia's curiosity outweighed her fear. She stepped closer to the platform, her eyes locked on the shimmering light. "This is the key, isn't it?" she whispered. "To understanding everything. To unlocking the mysteries of existence." Carter shook his head violently. "No, it's the end. If you cross that line, you won't come back the same. You'll be lost, just like I was. The light began to pulse faster now, as though reacting to their presence. Mia's heart raced, her mind torn between the fear of the unknown and the desire for discovery. Just as the air grew unbearably tense, the light flickered once more and a low growl echoed through the room. A sound that didn't belong in their world. Something was coming. Ryan grabbed Mia's arm. "We need to leave, now." As they turned to flee, the room around them began to twist and morph. The walls distorted, stretching into impossible shapes, and the light grew blinding. Mia could hear Carter's voice behind them, but it was distant, fading. "You can't outrun it," he called. "Reality will catch you in the end." With one last glance at the platform, Mia and Ryan dashed out of the lab and into the night. Behind them, the entire building seemed to flicker, as though it was being swallowed by the very distortion it had created. When they finally stopped running, gasping for breath, Mia looked back at the lab. It was gone. The trees stood where the building had been, and there was no sign it had ever existed. Ryan shook his head in disbelief. What the hell just happened? Mia stared into the empty space, her heart pounding. "I don't know," she said softly. "But whatever it was, we just touched the edge of reality." And as the two of them walked back into the woods, a faint glow remained in the sky behind them, a reminder that some mysteries were best left unsolved. The story ends here.